Spoiler warning for Hunter x Hunter, obviously. Let me just start off by saying this. I started watching anime like 5 years ago. I stopped watching after like 2 years and then started again last year. About 2 months ago I started the biggest binging phase I ever had. I started by rewatching some of my old favorites and then targeted some of the more popular shows that I missed. Despite all of this, I never really was in the anime community, or at least I really didn't know the opinion of most anime watchers about certain shows, which also includes Hunter x Hunter. That's also why I'm making this video. I'm using it as a sort of opinion dumpster while I'm still unfamiliar with the opinion of most people. I mean, there's one thing I know, it's the third best rated anime on Mall, which is also the main reason why I started watching it. And oh boy, let me just say it like this. I imagined that something rated this high wouldn't be something that you have to force yourself through. This video not only reflects my opinion about Hunter x Hunter, but also about many shonen animes and their problems that I at least personally have with them. Okay, now before anyone gets pissed, let me just say that it's different to like a show but acknowledge its flaws, or to generally think that something is overall good. Considering all of this, I find it to be impossible to give a show like this a 10 from a neutral standpoint. Even if you absolutely love it, I think you cannot deny its very obvious downsides. I mean, about a third of the show consisted of what felt like 30 new frames of animation per episode. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Before we talk about all of that, let me start with my favorite aspects. I thought the show had a good beginning. It was a very interesting introduction to the world of hunters. It didn't bother explaining everything from the get-go, which would have been oversaturated. The first arc focused mostly on the characters and the exam. At this point, the viewer still knows nothing about Nen, the main power system of the show. I liked the first arcs way more due to their focus on the power system this world provides. It was very comprehensible. Nen doesn't get explained all at once, which is a decision I appreciate. Good examples of this are the Tower arc, I don't know what it's called, and the Greed Island arc. Fights in the first and second arc are the ones that I actually liked, because they were also used to see Nen in action. You could basically understand each move the characters made, because they were based on the fundamentals of Nen, which needed no further explanation. But fights could also include certain moves or skills the protagonist didn't know of yet. These moves could then later be explained to be added to the character's fighting experience. Now, here is my problem with all of this. Why have such an extensive power system that you learn about in dozens of episodes and training arcs if you just trample all over it in the later parts of the show? Nen now starts becoming utterly individual. All of that time spent explaining the pillars of Nen become completely redundant, because Nen now switches from being a comprehensible power system to just being a mean to achieve almost purely specialized powers, which need to be explained every time a new fight starts with an unknown opponent, or even if known opponents that now suddenly have a secret power that we've never seen. Fights now change from being understandable due to the groundwork that has been done before, to consisting mostly of explaining the unknown power of an opponent that is often even not that relevant or even completely temporary, which make many episodes that include fights seem like fillers. This is also an issue I have with many shonen animes. Why do fights need to consist of so much talking, monologue, flashbacks, and even explaining done by a narrator, like it's a novel or an audiobook? This is an animation. You have other means of explaining a character's powers or habits or intentions other than pure text. It's so incredibly lazy. Like, let's take something completely unrelated as an example. Let's look at Duel of Fates from the Phantom Menace. The entire fight, nobody talks. There's only one word spoken. Yet you understand so much about what is happening. I'd like to use the part where Obi-Wan is separated from Qui-Gon as an example. The atmosphere gets denser. Qui-Gon is irritated by the strong presence of the dark side in the Force. He has never experienced it before. Maul, on the other hand, is very focused on the battle. Obi-Wan gets a bad feeling. After Qui-Gon dies, Obi-Wan fills with anger. He he's getting impatient. The anger is making him more focused and aggressive. Maul notices that Obi-Wan is intending something and is confused. You could understand all of this without a single line of dialogue or monologue or words by our narrator, simply by using camera work, facial expressions, sound design, and context, all fundamentals of movie making. With this, I am not implying that every fight in Hunter should be a cinematic masterpiece like Duel of Fates. All I'm saying is that you can deliver a message without resulting to info dumping. I know why they did it. It's cheaper. It's way cheaper, especially in such a long anime. But we're talking about the apparent best of the best, which makes it really disappointing. Almost nothing is left to your imagination. Everything is just fed to you. There's nothing remotely interesting about it. The show felt like it was too short but dragged out at the same time because of this. It spent so much time with utterly irrelevant powers and characters that it lost focus on what's important. Now let's talk about the part I hated the most about it, and it's what felt like the last third of the entire show. The contents of like 40 episodes took place in just a few hours inside the series. Watching an episode from that part felt like losing multiple brain cells.
消えた。血だ。どういうことだ。深海とナットが。奴が草を来たのに。知った。俺は奴らの名前、鉄砲で行く野菜とってんが、家島にまま言えな。聖人に鉄砲なら、ゲーアービさせても、実られるはずない。家の差だ。朝の匂い。ここは大目な毛の奥か。奴にその奥があるなら、特に書いたず。
Who actually enjoys something like this? You could have indicated that he figured his ability out with just a few facial expressions and maybe some camera angles. You could have done the same in about 2 seconds. The viewer already knew his ability. I guess they just had to have 148 episodes. And the fact that it had to be stretched out this long is reason enough for it not to be 3rd best rated anime. The show should have been half as long. The only thing I kinda liked about the last arc was the Ant King, but his potential as a character was completely destroyed by the rest of the arc. That's basically it for this video, and again, if you love this show, that's fine, as long as you understand my point of view and the show's overall flaws. I just think it's the most overrated show I've ever seen. And that's not even including the fact that it's not finished and apparently will not be finished anytime soon, which leaves us with some half-assed character development and many questions. I just wanted to get all of this out there. Anyways, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed and I will see you in the next one.